The bone-chilling tale of cannibals, what happens inside the cave at midnight. It was a dark night in Hollow Creek, the kind that sent goosebumps creeping up your spine, making you feel like eyes were on you watching. Rumors whispered like the wind as people passed by the old abandoned mine. They said at midnight, strange sounds echoed from those deep, dark depths, cries mixed with laughter, a blend so chilling it could freeze your blood. Locals claimed the cave was cursed, a place where anyone who wandered too far never returned. It was said that the last tripper who ventured in came out with a tale so horrifying, his mind splintered from the sheer terror. Look closer, though, and you'd see odd things. Bones littered the ground outside the cave, shiny and gnawed, just like some grotesque Halloween decoration gone wrong. The air hung heavy with an unsettling chill, making it hard to breathe. Even the trees seemed to shiver as if they understood the danger lurking just beyond their spread. Shadows danced near the entrance, flickering like spirits waiting to lure curious souls into the abyss. Every midnight, a flickering light appeared inside a flame, stubborn yet somehow alive, danced and beckoned from within the darkness. Who would be fool enough to follow it? The townsfolk exchanged fearful glances, murmuring prayers under their breath. There was something off about the whispered chants of unseen figures just past the cave's threshold, comfort sucked away in the claws of their sinister intent. Whoever dared cross that boundary might never find their way back. Intrigued visitors told macabre tales filled with hushed panic and clammy palms, each sharing their own version of what they believed to happen inside. Excitement tinged with dread made the story sparkle, every word drawing listeners closer to the edge, shying away from the truth. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But as the sound of midnight rolled in, an unexpected figure emerged, a young girl, daring and bold, stepping beyond the sidewalk of safety. Her heart raced with each cautious step, a frantic drum heralding the madness ahead. She held a flickering lantern, casting erratic shadows around her. It illuminated what could be seen of the cave's mouth, a gaping maw that threatened to swallow her whole. Was she a hero or just another victim awaiting the tale's final twist? As she stepped closer, the sounds intensified, spinning around her, igniting a whirlwind of danger. Breath caught in her throat, she hesitated, the weight of every town legend pressing on her shoulders. Could she truly uncover the secrets hidden in the dark? What awaited her within the cave's horrific embrace? The atmosphere grew thick with tense possibilities. This was just the beginning of an unnerving adventure that would change everything. The young girl felt the lantern's flickering flame dance in the wind, teasing her with both hope and dread. Her palms were clammy, and a voice deep inside her whispered to turn back. But determination coursed through her veins. She took a deep breath, steeling herself against the unease. With each step, the sounds grew clearer. Laughter echoed, unnaturally joyous against the backdrop of the cave's darkened mouth. What awaited her inside? Could it be the glee of some twisted game, or something much darker? She swallowed hard, gripping the lantern tighter, the cold metal biting into her palm. Suddenly, the laughter stopped. An all-encompassing silence enveloped her, suffocating yet electric. She hesitated, every instinct screaming for her to flee. But just as she turned to retreat, a voice drifted from within the shadows. "Don't be afraid, we were expecting you." The words wrapped around her like a vice. Who was waiting for her? Her heart pounded against her ribs, a fierce battle between fear and curiosity. Ignoring the surge of adrenaline urging her to run, she edged closer, the weakened glow of her lantern barely pushing back the suffocating darkness. "Step inside," the voice called, soothing yet sinister. "We just want to have some fun." Fun? What kind of fun? Her mind raced through memories of the cannibal legends, stories shared between friends on bonfire nights. Part of her adored the thrill, yet dread gripped her gut. But before she could vanish back into the safety of the night, the flame in her lantern sputtered violently, shedding light on eerie faces peering out from the cave. They weren't just shadows, they were figures, clothed in rags, eyes glimmering wickedly in the dim light. Laughter erupted from them again, an unsettling chorus as they moved toward her, beckoning her closer with gnarled hands. Fear twisted at her insides. What was it about their revelry that pulled her in? "Come play with us," one shouted, laughter spilling from cracked lips. The others snickered, their expressions a blend of joy and malice. "Join the feast," another chimed, excitement mixed with something darker lurking beneath the surface. Her instincts screamed for her to bolt, yet there was a magnetic force drawing her forward. These people, were they really cannibals? Or merely misunderstood? She shook her head, trying to dispel the invading thoughts. She staked her ground. It was too late to back down now. "Why should I?" she demanded, her voice quivering but resolute. "Because we have something you want." The voice came again, hushed and tantalizing. "The truth." With that, the entire cave erupted into a chorus of chants, rhythmic and haunting. She felt the weight of the air change, a pulse that coursed through her veins. What truth existed in this hellish haven? Suddenly, a shiver ran up her spine, and the gravity of her decision settled in the cavern's south walls seemed to close in on her, urging her to make a choice. Was the truth worth the risk? As the lantern flickered uncertainly, she steeled her resolve for whatever lay ahead, unaware of the real horror waiting just around the corner. Would she discover the secrets of the cave, or would she become just another whisper in Hollow Creek's cursed tale? And as she took another hesitant step forward, an unsettling question lingered in the air. What if the real monsters were her own fantasies, shouldering the unseen truth lurking in the darkness? The air hung thick with tension as those twisted figures began to sway, their chants rising and falling like a tide washing over a rocky shore. She could hardly keep her focus on the words. Instinctively, she glanced back toward the cave entrance. The darkness outside felt like an old friend compared to the twisted laughter surrounding her. But something kept her rooted, a pull deeper than rational thought. "Come, come." A voice chimed gleefully, startling her from her thoughts. "You're just in time for the unveiling." The figures parted, revealing a crude altar made of stone and woven branches. It was adorned with bones, animal and perhaps something else, remnants of a sacrifice long forgotten. Her stomach twisted, the smell of rot puncturing the air. But she was transfixed, her pulse thrumming in her ears as if urging her closer. "Do you seek the truth?" one of the figures whispered now, its voice laced with anticipation. "Do you want to know what lies beyond this wretched existence?" Despite herself, she nodded. She didn't know what she was signing up for. It was reckless and deadly, and yet she felt a flicker of curiosity. The truth entwined with danger was intoxicating. As if satisfied with her response, they all stepped aside like a curtain parting for a grand reveal. At the center of the altar, a mirror stood tall, its surface strangely polished yet fractured. It looked out of place in such a nightmarish setting. Shadows bounced off it, creating a shimmer that beckoned her forward. "Look into it," a raspy voice whispered, "and see for yourself." She hesitated. The fear gripped her again, ice-cold and constricting. What did it mean to look into the mirror? Would it show her the horrors they had committed? Or perhaps the depths of her own hidden desires? In an almost trance-like state, she stepped closer. The cave seemed to grow colder, the laughter faded slightly but the shadows danced wildly. She lifted her lantern high, illuminating the mirror's surface. What greeted her was incomprehensible. A reflection stared back, distorted and sharp. It wasn't just her face, it bore twisted features mingled with shadows. Her heart raced, each beat echoing the fears buried deep within her. "What is this?" she gasped, her voice trembling. "Your darkest truth," it sang back, the voice coming not just from the mirror, but from within. What you see is your fear and your desire all at once. To know it is to become it, she gasped, pulling back in horror. No. The figures erupted into a frenzy of laughter, their eyes alight with mischief. You can either embrace it, or it will consume you. Panic coursed through her body, awakening every survival instinct. She turned to bolt for the entrance, but the figures moved swiftly, surrounding her with outstretched arms. Their laughter felt like chains, binding her to the cavern's secrets. Stay, you have so much more to learn. The pressure mounted, the mirror pulsed with a strange energy that suffocated her thoughts. Would she allow herself to be enveloped by this dark truth? Then, just as she thought she had lost her chance to escape, a fleeting image within the mirror caught her eye, a flicker of warmth, a familiar face from her childhood. It seemed to call her, a lighthouse amid the storm. Struggling against the tightening grip of the figures, she fought to break free. Her heart screamed to follow that glimmer of light, but would she risk everything to learn the truth or lose herself in the darkness? Just as she gathered her courage to make a choice, an unearthly scream erupted from the cave's depths, drowning out the laughter. What had she awakened deep inside this wretched place? And as the echoes reverberated, questions loomed larger than shadows. Who was she really? And what if the truth she sought was more horrifying than anything she could have ever imagined? The air twisted with dread as the echoes of that unearthly scream faded into the cave's oppressive silence. It was a moment suspended in time, a vivid pause filled with anticipation. The figures around her exchanged glances that blended excitement and trepidation, as if they were holding their breath, waiting for something to unfold. She felt the grip on her arms loosen just enough for her to take a deep breath, her heart hammering in her chest. But before she could fully understand her escape, the mirror pulsed again, this time, harder, as if a heartbeat thrummed from its depths. She felt an irresistible force pulling her forward, urging her to confront what lay hidden within its shattered surface. Look! The raspy voice whispered again, sharper this time. What else awaits you? A flicker of that familiar face danced in the glass, her childhood friend, Sarah, with that innocent smile that once felt like a shield against the dark. The warmth she felt was fleeting, swallowed quickly by a chill that wrapped itself around her heart. How could she be drawn to the light while standing in this horror? Your choices matter, the mirror sang. Perhaps Sarah is a part of who you could become, or what you wish to leave behind. Fear tangled with a deep-seated desperation. Was it her fate to be consumed by these vile truths? Or could she break away from the past that haunted her? The figures leaned in closer, their breath brushing against her skin, a suffocating reminder that escape was not guaranteed. In a surge of defiance, she tore her gaze from the mirror and turned to the figures. What do you want from me? Her voice felt small, yet it cracked the silence. Why are you doing this? Their laughter faded momentarily, eyes narrowing as if assessing her worth. We crave the truth as much as you do, one of them said, its voice dripping with delight. The truth is a path to power. You can embrace it, or you can suffer for your ignorance. She shuddered at the thought, visions of herself wrapped in the figure's embrace, their sinister knowledge weaving into her very being. Did her fight mean anything against such dark desires? Would it help her save herself, or was she already too far gone? The mirror vibrated again, sending tremors through the ground at her feet. Ripples spread across its surface, causing the image of Sarah to warp and twist into something much darker, an expression of terror, of betrayal. She staggered back, nausea rising in her throat. Each ripple felt like a heartbeat echoing her own fading willpower. Do you see now? The figures said in a harmonized chant. You're bound to your past, just as it binds us to the shadows. Instinctively, she glanced to the cave entrance, the light from outside now a distant memory. Could there still be a way out? But what if the shadows held the key to her salvation? Choice. The word rippled through the crowd, louder than before. Embrace your fears or break the chains of your past. A surge of courage clashed with paralyzing dread. She wasn't just fighting for her life, she was fighting for what remained of her soul. Stepping forward, she felt the weight of their eyes, each one demanding her surrender, and yet, she saw a flicker of something different, a genuine plea for her acceptance. Heart racing, tears pricking at her eyes, she faced the mirror once more. "I will not become just a reflection of you," she shouted, voice rising above the tumult. But would her resolve be enough to sever the bonds? Would it summon the darkness or illuminate the path toward salvation? Suddenly, a blast of cold wind surged through the cave, snuffing out the flickering lantern and plunging her into blackness. The figures cried out, their spectral forms lost in the shadows. In that petrifying moment, a thought slammed into her: was there truly escape, or was this darkness just a reflection of her own fears? Desperation bubbled within her as the world around her spiraled out of control, and amid the chaos, she found herself asking, what if the truth lived not in the mirror, but in the darkest part of her own heart? As her senses heightened, a new sound emerged, a low, guttural growl echoing through the darkness, and she realized something was very, very close. What lay ahead in the night? Would she brave the darkness, or would it consume her entirely? The growl reverberated, a sinister echo that sent a jolt of fear coursing through her veins. She dared not breathe, eyes straining in the oppressive darkness for the source of that harrowing sound. Every instinct told her to flee, yet her feet felt glued to the spot, her heart drumming a frantic rhythm. Then, she caught a glimmer of faint light flickering deeper within the cave. Without thinking, she moved toward it, driven by a mix of terror and hope. The low growl lingered, a relentless reminder that something else was lurking in the shadows, a beast waiting to pounce. As she stumbled forward, the ground was uneven beneath her, each step a precarious act of faith. The echoes of the figures still taunted her, their whispered promises worming into her mind. "Embrace your fears," they crooned, as if urging her toward the brink of insanity. The light grew brighter, a solitary flame, flickering defiantly against the overwhelming dark. She rushed to it, heart racing, brain screaming caution. What awaited her there? A sanctuary? Or further damnation? Emerging into a small cavern, she was met by the flickering glow of a dying fire. Around it, jagged rocks formed a crude seating arrangement. Scattered bones lay on the ground, remnants of previous souls who dared to tread this path. A nauseating smell assaulted her senses, fear mixed with the coppery tang of blood. She pressed her back against the cave wall, heart hammering as she took in the sight. The fire cast twisted shadows across the faces of the figures that had whipped through her mind. They weren't just echoes anymore, they were real, their eyes shimmering like polished obsidian, hungry and expectant. "Welcome, dear heart," one figure purred, stepping forward from the shadows. Its lips curled into a grin that didn't reach its eyes. "You've come to feed the hunger we share." With each word, she felt the ground tremble beneath her, resonating with an ancient fear as familiar as her own reflection. "What do you want from me?" she gasped, choking on the thick air, the words barely escaping her lips. "The truth. We thrive on it," another figure hissed, taking a step closer, each movement deliberate and predatory. "Your truth is our meal. Offer yourself, your pain, your secrets. They will sate our hunger, or be consumed by us in the end." Sweat beaded on her brow as she felt the tendrils of despair wrapping around her heart. She couldn't let them take her. Clenching her fists, raw determination flooded her mind. "I will not feed your darkness," she shouted, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. The fire flickered violently in response, casting chaotic light across their twisted faces. A wave of shock rippled through the group, and then they erupted into laughter, a sound that sent ice coursing through her veins. "Fight all you want," one crooned, "but every choice comes at a cost." Suddenly, the cave trembled again, the low growl returned, now closer, more menacing. It wasn't the darkness that threatened her anymore. It was whatever waited just beyond reach. Drawn by her defiance, she had to decide: confront her fears head-on or succumb to the impending darkness that promised only oblivion. The growl morphed into something almost human, and the shadows began to shift, contorting into monstrous shapes that pulled at the edges of her sanity. "Choose," the figures demanded, their eyes glinting with anticipation. Will you face the beast lurking in your heart, or will you wither in silence? As the cavern echoed with that haunting call, a chilling realization broke through her panic. The creature that growled wasn't just an external threat. It embodied the fears and regrets she had buried deep within her, a reflection of all her darkest moments intertwined with her very essence. Could she summon the strength to confront it? Or would she surrender to the shadows, letting the darkness consume her? A final, desperate scream echoed in her mind, and just as she was about to act, the growl shifted again into a voice she recognized all too well, whispering her name. What awaited her in the depths as she faced the haunting call of the past? Would she rise, or would she fall into oblivion? The darkness thickened around her like a suffocating blanket. That voice, floating through the shadows, twisted her insides. It was a voice she never wanted to hear again, echoing memories she had tried so hard to bury. "Why are you here?" she said, her voice trembling as fear clutched at her throat. Silence fell, heavy and oppressive. The figures surrounding the fire leaned in closer, their eyes glinting with malicious glee. "Address the beast," one of them urged, their voice a chilling whisper. "Only by confronting what haunts you can you hope to survive." The growl resonated, more distinct now, curling through the air like smoke. It bore down on her, vibrating with a terrible familiarity. Swallowing hard, she fought against the tide of panic rising in her chest. "What do you want?" "Your fears are our feast," the one who had spoken first whispered, stepping closer still. "Your pain, your regrets, just a taste will keep us sated." Heart pounding against her ribs, she scanned the cavern, searching for an escape. But the jagged rocks loomed, impossibly large, as if intent on trapping her. Just outside the fire's glow, shadows shifted and flickered, and she caught glimpses of forms that twisted grotesquely and laughed with a terrible, echoing mirth. Then, from the darkness, familiar words swirled. "You left me to drown." The voice was unmistakable, dripping with hurt. Anguish washed over her, threatening to pull her under. The last time she had heard that voice had been during the storm, a moment frozen in time, too haunted to escape. "You didn't save me." "No," she whispered, clutching her chest as sharp daggers of guilt pierced through her. Memories surged, the chaos of the water, the desperation, the helplessness. The figures circled her, their gaze unwavering. "Face it, dear heart. Your truth is your salvation. Will you let it consume you, or will you fight back?" A cold sweat dripped down her back as she teetered on the edge of despair. The low growl, now unmistakably close, transformed into a chorus of voices, echoing her regrets, every unkind word, every moment of hesitation. They took on a menacing tone, closing in, wrapping her in layers of betrayal and guilt. "Fight it. Fight it," she pleaded to herself, rage igniting within her. Clenching her fists, she brought forth the anger that brewed deep in her core. "You don't control me. I will not let my past drown me again." The figures gasped in unison, momentarily taken aback. The shifting shadows paused, and the growl faltered, stalling in the depths of the cave. "Then let us see your truth," they shouted, a twisted laughter erupting as if taunting her newfound defiance. The fire flared wildly, casting an eerie glow that danced across her face, reflecting her turmoil. Suddenly, she felt an overwhelming rush within her. A force ignited, and she took a resolute step forward, ready to face the darkness and its many faces, each one a piece of her fragmented self. But just as the growl morphed into a fierce howl and the shadows reached out to claim her, something shifted behind her. A figure burst forth from the darkness, wild with fury and desperation. It was familiar yet unrecognizable, cloaked in pain. "Stop!" it screamed, intertwining with the cacophony of voices. Who was this new apparition? And what connection did they have to her past? As the shadows twisted, she braced herself. Would this figure help her confront the beast within or drag her deeper into despair? The figure halted just beyond the reach of the firelight, illuminated briefly like a mirage, a silhouette she yearned to recognize but couldn't grasp. "Stop!" The apparition shouted again, but the intensity of the echo swallowed the word, twisting it with dread. "Who are you?" she gasped, her breath hitching in her throat. The shadows writhed at her sides, inches from consuming her whole, yet something in the newcomer's presence pulled at her. She didn't want to hope, not in a place like this. "Someone who knows," the figure murmured, stepping closer. A thin veil of light brushed over their features, and she recognized those eyes hollow, yet burning with an unwavering strength. "Someone who fought the same battles you're facing now. Please," she pleaded, warmth blooming in her chest despite the chaos. "Can you help me?" "Help you?" The voice crackled, deep like thunder in the cavern. "You must help yourself first. You cannot evade your truths." The laughter of the figures surrounding the fire intensified, mocking her. The flickering flames danced erratically, casting grotesque shadows that seemed to shriek her insecurities back at her. "Your truth? What truth can you face when the consequences loom?" They taunted, their voices slithering around her. "Face them." The figure roared, shattering the madness for just an instant. "Do not let them devour you. You are stronger than this darkness." Despite the turmoil churning within her, she felt a spark of resolve. She opened her mouth to respond, but the growl crashed through the air, followed by a whirlwind of voices that intertwined in a furious crescendo of despair. Memories of betrayal, anger, and guilt taunted her relentlessly. "You let me down. You're nothing without your mistakes." They screamed, sharp edges cutting through the fog of her mind. "You will always be a coward." But then that figure from the shadows stepped forward again and extended a hand. "Do you want to break free? It's all about accepting what happened, not running from it. Take my hand." With the darkness clawing at her, she hesitated. Trust didn't come easily in such a shattered realm, yet something in that outstretched hand felt familiar, warm, grounding. Her heartbeat thundered against her ribs as she weighed her options. Fight or flee? Truth or delusion? Just as she made up her mind, the shadows surged forward, a tidal wave of despair threatening to drown her once more. The flickering fire shrank as the darkness mounted, an insatiable beast hungering for her soul. "Now!" the figure yelled. "Embrace your fears, let them flow through you. Be the storm you feared." With a swift motion, she lunged for that hand, grasping it tightly as panic surged. A bright light exploded around her, leaving no space for the shadows. They shrieked, losing shape and form, twisting into nothingness before her eyes. But before she could process the change, the figure beside her faded, swallowed by the brightness of hope that felt alarmingly fleeting. Chills rippled through her as she faced the flickering fire once again, now pulsing with a mixed energy of possibility and peril. "Where are you?" she called, desperation leaking into her tone. "I can't do this alone." The fire crackled ominously, wailing through the void. "Alone?" came a whisper from the depths of the darkness. "Do you truly think you will ever be alone again?" A deep dread crawled back into her chest as shadows shifted on all sides. The beast was stirring, even now. Had she really pushed them away, or were they lying in wait just beyond the light? Would the new strength she felt be enough to face this impending storm, or would it betray her, casting her into darkness once again? The fire flickered, casting long, jagged shadows that crept closer, reaching out with ghostly fingers. Her heart raced as she felt the presence of the darkness swirling around her, the promises of despair whispering threats in her ear. Once again, she stood on the edge of the abyss, fighting the urge to succumb to the panic bubbling within. "Face your fears," the voice from the shadows echoed, reverberating through her mind like a relentless drumbeat. She remembered the warmth of the figure's hand, how it felt like home, like a shield against the tempest surrounding her. It was a beacon that urged her on, but the realization of her own weakness loomed heavily. There was a shuddering silence, a heavy pause filled with the scent of smoke and a creeping chill. She grit her teeth, the taste of salt on her lips as she bit down hard. They were wrong. She wasn't a coward. Not anymore. Enough. She screamed, surprising even herself. She stepped forward, bracing against the encroaching darkness with every ounce of strength she could summon. I am not afraid of you. The shadows recoiled momentarily, retreating as if stung. But the laughter was a hissing chorus, taunting and relentless. You think you can face us? Your truth will always bind you. You think you've escaped? The shadows lunged again, swirling with a fury that left her breathless. Her pulse quickened, each beat echoing the desperate rhythm of her resolve. She had come too far to turn back now, too far to allow the remnants of her past to claim her again. Show yourself. She shouted. If I am to fall, then let me do so fighting. With those words, the energy in the cave shifted. Fear cracked open, revealing deeper layers of unyielding courage within her. An electric charge pulsed through her veins, igniting a fire that mirrored the one flickering bravely nearby. In that moment, everything felt possible. The darkness swirled in protest, shrieking as if trying to drown her in the weight of its despair. It lifted and crashed like waves, but instead of retreating, she charged into it, letting its coldness wash over her. The tendrils wrapped around her limbs, but she pushed back, forcing her will, her newfound power against them. I am my own truth. She shouted, voice rising above the din. And I will not be silenced. The shadows hesitated, trembling as her light grew stronger, burning fiercely within her. The laughter faded into something akin to fear. Moments stretched as realms of time themselves seemed to bend and warp, and just when she thought she could touch the light, a piercing cry ripped through the cacophony. Stop! A new voice echoed harsh, raw. She whipped around, eyes wide as she saw a new figure emerging from the dark, a man with wild hair and eyes filled with desperation. He seemed almost frantic, as if he had been looking for her. You don't understand. They'll consume you. Who are you? She demanded, half terrified, half intrigued. He stepped forward, his presence a storm cloud looming above. You must find the heart of the cave. Only there can you truly break the chains that bind you. What chains? She asked, her breath coming out in quick gasps, the weight of confusion crashing upon her. They're not just shadows. They feed off secrets, regrets. And you carry the heaviest burden of them all. Panic clawed at her insides. What was he talking about? She had fought so hard, had faced herself, and now it was slipping through her fingers. In there, he nodded toward the blackness behind him, you'll find the truth. But whether you can bear it, that's something else entirely. Could she face it? Could she truly confront all she had avoided? The shadows gathered again, pushing against her with renewed vigor. Their whispers climbed higher, spiraling into a crescendo of despair mixed with taunts and truths, but she could not falter. Not again. Steeling herself, she took a slow breath. Then show me. As the shadows thrashed around her, she stepped into the deep unknown, the darkness wrapping around her, pulling her deeper into the cave's heart where her darkest fears awaited. The darkness engulfed her like a thick fog, the chill wrapping around her like chains. She moved forward, driven by a mix of fear and determination. Each step felt heavier, the air thick with dread. The hairs on the back of her neck stood on end, as if the shadows were watching, waiting for her to show weakness. Keep moving, she whispered to herself, but the whispered taunts of the shadows crept closer, slithering through her thoughts. You'll never escape, you belong to us, they hissed, a symphony of dread that clawed at her mind. As she ventured deeper, a faint glow flickered in the distance. It was subtle but undeniable, like a beacon in the relentless night. Could that be the heart of the cave? Hope ignited within her, forcing back the icy fingers of despair, but the shadows lunged again, whipping around her legs, pulling her back. She stumbled, panic surging as the weight of their despair pressed down hard. No! I want to go back. She roared, wrenching herself free. In that moment, raw, unfiltered anger surged through her like liquid fire. For the first time, she felt their grip weaken. "Fight!" A voice boomed, reverberating through the cavern. It was the man. The urgency in his tone propelled her forward, the glow grew brighter, cutting through the oppressive darkness. It pulsed rhythmically, like a heartbeat, guiding her onward. Each step filled her with determination, every breath a declaration of her strength. She could almost taste freedom, just beyond the next bend, but then, the laughter returned savage and mocking, echoing off the walls. "Foolish girl. You think you can outrun us? Your past is your master." Their voices twisted into a cacophony, their sinister energy crashing around her like a storm. "Face it!" she shouted, pushing back against the shadows with fierce resolve. "I am not my past." The shadows recoiled, hissing as if burnt by her words. That brief moment of hesitation, was it the doubt she had spotted within them? Or perhaps a flaw in their relentless facade? She ran toward the light, heart hammering. The darkness pulled, but she fought against it, stronger than before. The laughter faded, replaced by something different. A whisper, seductive and promising, slipped through the noise like a serpent. "What if we showed you the truth?" Her pulse quickened as memories flooded back, choices, mistakes, burdens she tried to bury. They rose, the weight almost suffocating, threatening to drag her down. "Stop!" she yelled, clenching her fists. "I will not be a prisoner of my past." In that moment, her defiance ignited a surge of energy, a blaze of hope that pierced through the shadows. She reached the source of the glow, an altar of stone, dripping with an ethereal light. It throbbed with power, beckoning her closer, promising liberation. Grasping the edges of the altar, her heart raced with both dread and anticipation. Would this truly be the answer? The shadows writhed around her, thrashing violently as if desperate to prevent her from touching it. "Don't!" The wild-haired man emerged again, more frantic. "If you approach it, you risk losing everything. You might not come back. But I have to know." She cried, voice wavering, caught in a whirlwind of emotions: fear, anger, longing. Chills swept through her body as a wave of realization crashed overhead. What if the truth was darker than she ever imagined? The altar pulsed harder, demanding her touch, while the shadows shrieked in protest, swinging wildly. "Make your choice." The man growled, his eyes wild with urgency and fear. "But be ready for the consequences." Eyes glued to the glowing stone, she felt a pull stronger than anything she'd encountered before. It promised the clarity she desperately sought, but hinted at the chaos that came before. Could she truly confront what lay beyond? With her heart hammering, she prepared to reach for the light, the weight of her past in balance against the unknown. But uncertainty hung thick in the air as the shadows danced, whispering sweetly in her ear. What would she find when she crossed that threshold? The instant her fingertips brushed against the glowing altar's surface, a wave of energy coursed through her, igniting every fiber of her being. Time stretched and folded like a well-worn map as visions flashed before her eyes, moments of joy, sorrow, regret, and pain, swirling together in a violent kaleidoscope. Distant laughter morphed into tortured screams, wrapping around her mind like chains that threatened to choke her will. "What have you done?" The man cried out, desperation clawing at his voice as he shot forward, but the shadows surged, retaliating fiercely, blocking him from advancing. She could hear their malicious laughter reverberate through her mind, but it began to dull. She was on the cusp of something monumental. The truth awaited her. "Embrace it." The altar whispered, its voice celestial and resonant. "Let it wash over you. Only through acceptance can you forge your path." These words wrapped around her like a warm embrace, and she felt the stone begin to pulse in rhythm with her racing heart. Suddenly, flashes showed her the faces of those who had suffered because of her choices, friends she had lost, connections frayed in turmoil, and the haunting gaze of Sarah, taken too soon. Her gut clenched, shame spilling over her like a tide of suffocating sorrow. "I didn't mean to," she murmured, half plea, half relinquishment. The shadows writhed around her, as if sensing her resolve weakening. They hissed yet again, slinking toward her, promising to engulf her as they whispered, "It can all vanish if you let it. End the suffering, deny the truth." "No!" she screamed defiantly, cutting through their seductive lure. "You're wrong. I won't stay shackled by my past." With a surge of clarity, she let go of the fear, the guilt that had shadowed every waking moment. The altar shimmered brighter, resonating with her acceptance. The shadows recoiled, shrieking as they felt the shift in energy. Behind them, she glimpsed the wild-haired man, whose focus remained unwavering. "You are powerful," he shouted over the cacophony. "Don't look back, forge your destiny." And that word forge struck a chord deep within her. The truth was not just the pain of her past but an act of creation, a fire from which she could build anew. She couldn't erase what had happened, but she could determine what came next. The altar blazed with a brilliant light, casting aside the shadows that had always loomed over her. The whispers grew desperate, angry, but she stood firm, fueled by a newfound sense of freedom. "I choose to reclaim my life," she declared, her voice echoing like thunder against the cave walls. As she spoke, the darkness around her began to shatter, like glass breaking apart into shards. The figures scrambled, their malicious joy shifting into terror. For the first time, they were the ones afraid. The altar rippled, and a warm, golden hue filled the space, pushing back the remnants of despair. "Go!" the man urged, gesturing to the bright path now opening before her. "Your journey isn't over, but this moment leads to your rebirth. You've conquered your fears." With no time to waste, she sprinted toward the light spilling from the cave entrance, the heavy shadows clawing at her heels, desperately trying to reclaim their hold on her. Upon bursting through the threshold, the outside world met her with a rush of frenetic energy, full of color and possibility. The night air filled her lungs, cleansing every dark thought that had once sunk its claws into her. She stood at the cusp of Hollow Creek, the forest whispering gently around her. From the shadows of the cave, she could still hear their anguished wails, echoing through the depths. But she wasn't afraid anymore. Turning her back on the cave, she locked eyes with the man, who stood at the entrance. "You did it!" he shouted, a wide smile spreading across his face. "You faced your demons." The moon hung high above them, illuminating the path ahead. The burdens of her past would always accompany her, yes, but now she held the power to redefine her story. A sense of peace washed over her, like fresh rain after a long drought. "Thank you," she breathed, feeling the lightness of liberation wrap around her. "For everything." With one last look at the cave, she stepped forward into the unknown, ready to embrace whatever came next. It was time to carve her own path, one where darkness would no longer dictate her fate. As she ventured into the embrace of dawn, she finally understood that the true question wasn't just what monsters lurked in the depths of the cave, but what she would do with the truth, her truth, as she navigated the brighter roads awaiting her. Now, as the sunrise painted the world in golden hues, the call to adventure thrummed through her veins, raw and exhilarating. But what about you? Are you ready to confront your own shadows? You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exciting story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. What do you think happened next for our brave girl? And don't wait even one more second to share this with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Together, let's keep the thrill alive.